especially Steve and Michael. Jeff, I haven't seen him in so long. You're over here now.
I think she's saying take your seat.
We separated you two.
Oh, yeah.
They thought it'd be better if you sat next to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kylie can keep you in line.
But it's not the same.
Proud of it.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I hate to break up the vital conversations that are ongoing, but that's the nature of the game. I'm declaring that we have a quorum plus this morning.
Excellent.
So thank you all for being here. We know that Council Member Alex Hammond is still deployed with the National Guard, and Council Member Harold Johnson is having some health issues and is unable to join us today. So the first order of business is always approval of the minutes from our last meeting. Everyone received a copy, and I'm sure you read them thoroughly.
Absolutely, and I'll make a motion to approve. I'll do my normal.
Okay.
Yeah, but we
Harold's
don't have
not here
Harold
to
here to
second,
second.
Yeah, I
I
know.
don't know what we're gonna do.
Yeah, well, we don't want it to die for lack of a second, so who's gonna?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Kylie. Discussion, additions, amendments, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the minutes as submitted, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, and thank you, Kaylee, for the minutes. And I want to give a public shout out to Katie, who has been doing a fabulous job and is actually doing more than a full-time job as the campus liaison for the presidential searches. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you. I can just like go around the room and thank everybody, because this is a team sport, finding a new president. And I want to thank you all for the parts that you've played. And Alex gave the first community tour to our first candidate. And of course, it was so foggy, you couldn't see out the window. But Alex is an elected official from the village, and who better than to showcase. And fortunately, the candidate had been here once or twice before because of duties at Crane, so he wasn't totally unfamiliar with what Potsdam looked like. So thanks, everybody, and we have done one candidate, now we have 5 more. So keep your energy up, remember to breathe, and let's put our best foot forward, best feet forward in this case. So before my report, we have a special presentation this morning, and to introduce that, I would like to ask our officer in charge, Dr. Neiser, if you will.
Thank you, June. Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm very pleased to begin this meeting by announcing that this past summer, Dr. Jeffrey Francombe and 17 students embarked on an amazing 500-mile trek along the Camino de Santiago in Spain. Joining us today to share some highlights from the trip are Dr. Francombe, Jan Taylor, Lindsay Hebert, Noah Unser. So take it away.
Thank you so much, and it is great to be here with you today. I've taught at Crane for about 13 years. I'm hoping that by the end of our little discussion here, you will be booking your flights to Spain to go walk the Camino, because it was truly a memorable, life-changing experience for us, and we want to tell you a little bit about it. It started in 2017. We programmed a piece of the Camino de Santiago with the Crane Concert Choir, and I walked in there really not knowing anything about it. I asked the students, who's ever heard of this? Half the class raised their hand, 50 students, and I said, same kids raised their hands. So I asked Dean 3 months later, walking the Camino. You can't do that anymore. Turnaround. But we only walked 200 miles of it, and it was such an impressionable experience. Afterwards, one student wrote, "Spain did more than change my life. It changed my approach to it, the ways in which I interpret it, and how I adapt to situations that arise within it. The time afforded to me through that trip was some of the most valuable time I've ever had. Going to Spain with these friends, whom I barely knew, remains and will likely continue to be, for the rest of my life, one of the most valuable experiences I've had. On the Camino, that student always called me Dad, and to this day he still does. Dad. So I tried to replicate that experience in 2018 when we went to Germany, and 2019 when we went to Peru, and you probably saw the Peru pictures. And you know, they were wonderful, but they just weren't the same. And the reason why, I've come to the conclusion, students went on those trips for the adventure, going to Machu Picchu. Students went to Spain for the pilgrimage. They understood what it was about. We spent a whole semester studying it as we sang this incredible hour-long piece. They went for physical, emotional, and spiritual growth, which is what the Camino is really all about. And so many of them, we would talk as we walked on the Camino. They would talk with each other. They would talk with new people they had met. And they would talk about these burdens that they were carrying. And they would leave them at these symbolic places like the Cruz de Hierro, or at the very end, the chapel in Santiago. We would sing. We sang, at least 20 times in these beautiful cathedrals for other pilgrims. And probably every time, pilgrims that were in the room would just break out into tears immediately. It was just such an impressionable and incredible experience. To keep costs low, I did as much of the planning as I could. We didn't use travel agents. The students paid $1,600 for 45 days in Spain, and they brought $1,400 to spend on the ground. So a total of about $3,000, made possible in part to the Stradlings, who created this travel endowment for us and others to be able to travel internationally. And also special thanks to Dean Gibbons, who helped provide for this as well. I'm also grateful for the support of Jenica Rogers' office, who did so much. Now these students here, we have 3 of the 17 who went. Many of them were alumni, because we were supposed to go in 2020. Pushed that off. So these students were saving and waiting to go, and so they came back. Recent alumni, students who just were graduating last semester that went. So they weren't able to be here today, but we have 3 who are here. Lindsay is a 3rd-generation Crane student, and Noah, and then Zion. And I'll let them tell you a little bit about who they are as they tell you a little bit about their experiences on the trip.
Hi, I'm Lindsay. I'm a sophomore music major with a concentration in voice and special education, and I come from the Syracuse area.
Hi, my name is Noah. I'm a junior music education major here at Potsdam, and I'm from Albany, New York.
Hi, my name's Zion. I'm a junior voice performance and music business major, and I also come from the Albany area.
Lindsay, are you glad you went on the trip?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your greatest impressions.
Well, there's so much to say, so I'm just going to keep one thing. I think the most memorable thing that I learned was about the power of music. Like Dr. Frankum said, when we sang, we were singing for people from all over the world, so all different languages, and we sang in English, so they didn't necessarily understand what we were saying, but they understood the music.
The music is definitely a very important part of it, and that's one of the reasons why I went on the trip. As college musicians, it's really hard when we pick something that we love so much and we turn it into work. But when you're on the Camino and you're singing for all these people in these random churches with people that you've just met, it's really a beautiful experience because you can see the impact that music has on people. And after all, that's why we are musicians in the first place. It's to impact people and to share our emotions with people. And so it was a really nice way to connect with other pilgrims on the trail. On the trip, I actually had a barbershop quartet made up of members of our a cappella group. And one of my most memorable experiences is one day we all walked together, the 4 of us, and we just stopped at random spots and we sang for people. and we sang our traditional Irish blessing and a couple other numbers that we know, and it was a really great experience.
Yeah, the music itself completely changed my experience on this trip. I've been performing since I was about 2 years old, started with dance, then violin, then singing, and I'd never done it in a way where it was so raw and so broken down. These were never planned concerts, they were never invited or sold tickets, they were just in random environments in whatever clothes we had on, whether that was fresh out of a shower or after hiking 15 miles in 100-degree heat. And it really showed me the beauty of music for the sake of music, without the prestige behind it, without even sometimes the praise. Sometimes we were singing for 2 people, but it didn't really matter because sometimes those were the most special performances and left the largest impact.
Oh, okay. So I had a very unique situation because I came in and I didn't know anyone in the group. So I thought 500 miles across Spain, no big deal. Making friends? But when you're going up a mountain in 100-degree heat, you need someone to make you laugh. And when you're missing home, you need a shoulder to cry on. And when you're finding yourself spiritually, you need someone to support and to push you. And so because we were doing this super hard journey, physically, mentally, spiritually, we needed those connections. And so we were able to form bonds so quickly and so closely. I think of my friend Tessa, who graduated from Crane before I even came. So our paths would have never crossed, but we still talk every single day. And even the people who I don't talk to every day, I know they have my back and I have theirs, because the connections that you make in this specific environment, they don't just stay in Spain on the Camino. They go with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, so one of the great things about the Camino is, unfortunately, I started college in fall of 2020, which was like the heat of the pandemic. And so I didn't really know a lot of people who were in the senior class when I was a freshman. And so that was made up of almost all the alumni on the trip. And so it was really impactful to finally get to meet them, as a lot of them I had met on Zoom and never saw them in person. And it was a crazy experience just to be like, wow, you're a person. It was really a great experience. But not only meeting people from the trip, but also all the people that were passing pilgrims on the trail. I talked to new people almost every day, and at the same time there was some people that I saw on my journey all the way through, and now we're friends on Facebook, and so I know people from Canada and Germany and all over the world. So
Yeah, so the only person I knew going to this trip was Noah, and just because we were in the same year together, and I was also scared about meeting new people and hiking, because I don't do nature 99% of the time. But I got there and I bonded super quickly with the entire group, and then I realized I'm surrounded by people from everywhere in the world. And I just became determined to just be as social as physically possible. I made friends with probably 100+ people. I kept all of their names in a list. I have friends now from Germany and Ireland who are my age. One of the characters, we called them our Camino characters, who kept popping up along the way, was this woman, Connie, who I met day 2 hiking, who was deaf, using hearing aids to do this journey all alone. And she sort of came along with her group and showed us a whole different side of music from a deaf person's perspective, using hearing aids and rhythms as a way to enjoy it as an art. Some of the most valuable experiences I even had were with strangers, where when you're in this specific environment, you're so easily open as a person. There were people who were sharing their entire life stories with me when they met me 10 minutes prior. Specifically, one man, Martin, was going on the journey to get over some familial issues he had, where his father had unfortunately passed recently, and he just shared his entire experience with me. And we never saw each other again, but I know that he had an impact on me, and in a way that's going to last a lifetime, and I really hope that I impacted him the same way. And luckily, he later down the line got to hear us sing with his brother, and it was just a really full circle, beautiful moment, and showed the power of Camino.
Yeah, we had groupies that would follow us all along for 500 miles. Before we watch this short video, anybody have any questions for these three? Yes.
Well, two questions, actually. I mean, was there much or any blending with other countries with your singing? Did you, like, sing with other groups that came along, or was this?
A lot of the times when we sang, other people would ask to sing for us. So one time we sang at a Spanish church, and then the whole congregation sang in Spanish for us. There was another group, from Ireland, and and we sang for them, and then they sang for us. So it was really cool to like share our music.
Great. The other question I had for Noah was, when you were doing the barbershop, did you put a hat out to see if you...
No, we did not put a hat out. That's a funny question.
For your trip.
Probably, you know. We were pretty good.
Any other questions? Okay.
Classical opera singer my whole life. Both my parents had a huge love of classical music, and then I just became obsessed with singing. I was singing all the time in the car, singing with my friends, and my mom finally was like, okay, let's start you with some voice lessons.
I started music when I was in about 4th grade. I got a really great opportunity to be in this choir in the capital region. They sing and raise money for children with childhood cancer and blood disorders. Ever since then, I just fell in love with the power that music has in people's lives.
It challenges you to work hard, but also everyone here is so supportive. It was really the students that actually made me fall in love with the space, just seeing their community.
I got to sing with concert choir last spring, and we worked on The Path of Miracles by Joby Talcott. It's a 4-movement, hour-and-a-half long choral work. It's about the Path of Miracles.
That is based on the Camino de Santiago, which is the hike that we all went on.
You know, in the music, there's like 17 different parts at one time. But like once we had it all together, and we were just, you know, just sharing with the audience what we learned, it was a new experience. By that time, I knew I was going to Spain, so just like having that, like having those extra emotions in me, like knowing I'm going to experience this with some people in this class too, it was uplifting.
During that time, we also got to learn all about Spanish culture as well as what spaces we'd be going through. The trip itself was incredible. We started in the south of France and hiked all the way to the northern coast of Spain.
For myself, I grew a lot as a person. I met a man, you know, who one day told me that I was like his little hero, that's what he called me. And he told me that just the way I was walking and the way I was talking and like laughing and having fun with everybody, I was embodying the spirit of the Camino. And from that moment on, I took this little quote and I decided that I was going to be the hero of my own story. I just decided to be kind to everybody and to be brave and try new things and to do all those things that Martin told me I already was doing.
Camino specifically, it's known for being this beautiful hike that really changes people. A phrase that we all say while we're walking past another pilgrim is Buen Camino. And towards the end, people start saying Buen Camino for tu vida, which means good walk for your life. It's just translating that this journey isn't ended here. It's coming with you, and especially being a musician, bringing that back into my art. I find myself more emotional when I perform, more emotional even when I'm speaking.
We met this French couple who were walking for their daughter that they had lost. When we discovered the reason that they were walking, we dedicated a song to them. And it was just a really beautiful moment.
And then they shared how much we actually brought them through our music and reaching out with them and talking to them, and that gave me a sense of peace.
The piece was not easy, just like how the trip was not easy. And but I didn't know how much I needed to go on that trip until I was there. Just going to a different area of the world and having this new routine? It was just a little more peaceful, self-reflective.
Music has so much more value when you have context, and when you learn about all these different cultures, you can really put a lot more into the music because you know where it's from.
I actually got tattooed with the mark of the Camino, so as a reminder of everything that I learned along the way, and it's something that's going to stay with me for the rest of my life.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So we now have some new heroes.
Wow.
Wow,
Quite a trip.
I guess so.
Yes.
Yeah, with the 100-degree heat and walking on the, that's not my jam.
And
so.
singing, walking
yeah.
and singing.
Yeah, that was amazing. And that's just one of the things that makes Potsdam so special. You know, life-changing can sound like a trite phrase, but I think it's pretty clear that this was truly life-changing for people and something they will never forget. And even getting a tattoo, that's real commitment. All right. So that was a great way to start the meeting, reminding us about our wonderful students and faculty and all the opportunities that are open to change people's lives. I think we forget about it sometimes in the day-to-day drudgery. So it was really nice to start the meeting off that way and remind us what it's really all about. So thank you, and thanks for having them come to give us some inspiration for today and beyond. I don't have very much to report as the chair of the council. We have been busy, as you might know, trying to find our next president. And we did have our first candidate on campus this past week. And we are bringing a second candidate this coming week. We're excited. We're also tired. But it's a very worthwhile endeavor. And Rich and Steve and Molly and Kylie are fully involved, and we appreciate that. The other thing, I'm also a member of the Community Engagement Subgroup on the Chancellor's Search. And we had a third meeting and just got an update from the consultants. So like our search here at Potsdam, that one is moving forward. We don't have a timeline yet for when they will be bringing finalists to Central to meet the Chancellor and the board. But I'll keep you up to date on that as it moves forward. So this is a busy time, an exciting time, and I'm going to turn the program now over to our officer in charge.
Yeah. Well, before that, June, what do you do in your spare time?
Me?
Yeah.
Try to walk.
Oh, thank you, June. Thank you, everyone who's involved in the presidential search, especially you doing Katie. I know it's an enormous amount of work, and I'm excited about the candidates, and it's all part of moving forward. We're moving forward in a bunch of wonderful ways, and some of that's in my report that I submitted to you all, and today I'm just going to mention a few highlights, a few select items from that report, and leave some of it unsaid here, and then you can ask questions when we get to the part of the meeting, if you have any questions, follow up, and so on. Yeah, I want to say here that we just completed our work to update the SUNY Potsdam strategic roadmap by establishing 5 institutional priorities. Institutional priorities at a college enable the college to act comprehensively together as one, even though it's a big organization with lots of divisions. We will use the priorities to help us to inform our budgeting decisions, our new curriculum decisions, and the like. All that will be aligned, all the parts will be aligned together. The 5 priorities are financial stability and analysis, retention and enrollment, academic programs and planning, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and connections with the community, meaning connections with the community external to the campus. Those are the 5 college priorities going forward. When a new president takes the helm, it'll be their choice, and I'm sure they'll make the choice to embark on a year-long process of creating a 5-year strategic plan with benchmarks and the like, and we'll update this further when they do that. But that's going really well, and that's going to help us with our middle stage response, and it's a good thing. Another wonderful thing I'm excited about, you've heard about this already, but I can't resist repeating it briefly. The FISU Winter World University Games is coming. It's on track. Knowles Hall is being spiffed up as we speak to be ready to be the athletes' village in January. For 10 days in January, Knowles Hall will host collegiate athletes from around the world. I think there's 9 total venues, with 9 events. It's a big operation, the World University Games, involving the Governor's Office, Office of Employee Relations, FISU, and other organizations. We will host the Athletes Village. We will host some of the round robin and quarterfinal hockey games. And thousands of people will visit SUNY Potsdam and see our great campus. So perhaps come and attend some of the games. So that's exciting. That's on track. Jacqueline Richardson Malacio couldn't join us today, our Chief Diversity Officer and Vice President for Diversity. And so I'll mention a few things from her report, one of which is we've added a programming coordinator position to the Center for Diversity. We hired Sean Ramos, who's an alum of the college, and a wonderful person, and that's exciting. And we're searching for a Center for Diversity director to replace Cliff, who needs to move on, and that's going well. What else? I'll also report that on behalf of Alan Hersker, our provost, who's at a meeting of chief academic officers right now, so couldn't be here today, that we're seeing tremendous growth in our college and high school program, which offers students the opportunity to take classes in high school that confer college credit. We're on track this year to have nearly 800 students participating from over 30 high schools. So this is good for those students getting college credit while they're in high school. It also connects them to SUNY Potsdam, and perhaps that will help us in recruitment. Alan reported that 12% this fall, 12% of the incoming first-year class had taken a college and high school course. So this growth is important for the college. It's very good news, a way to connect to the region. I want to report that on behalf of Alan, that 2 programs have been newly approved for online delivery in fall 2023. The BA degree in politics is now approved by SUNY and by the State Ed Department for delivery fully online, and that's true also of the MSc in special education. Perhaps you were going to report on that, Howard. Sorry Sorry about that. If so, let's see, what else? I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. It's kind of people who are in the room. Perhaps you're going to mention this, Alan, but I can't resist. The Business Administration Program has entered into an international articulation for a program, International Economics / Business Administration with the Kiev National Economics University in Ukraine. Finally, and on an important note, the new student Zen meditation room is now open at the Center for Diversity. So perhaps after this meeting, head on over there.
Maybe like, where's that?
Take a little breather. That's important. Yeah, that's my highlights. Thank you.
Questions or comments for Phil? Thank you very much. So now moving along, you as council members all received a copy of a proposed resolution that we need to take some action on today, and it's regarding open meetings and what happens next after the governor's executive order has expired that allowed for hybrid meetings. And that was an extraordinary circumstance because of the pandemic and the complications associated with that. But now that that has sunset, I can't remember the date, we need, and not just us, but the agencies and all of the local governments across the state have to take action and adopt their own policy for the use and the structure of meetings moving forward to be able to continue to allow attendance via video conference. So part of this meeting is open for the public. We're being streamed live. The notices have been placed reminding people that we're having the meeting today and that they're always welcome to come and attend the meeting in person. So there's no one from the public here today. I mean, all very important people here, but nobody who is here for the purpose of commenting on this proposed resolution. So I open the floor to public participation, and the chat is being monitored. So if anybody has anything that they would like to say from the public, this is the opportunity. Wait just a minute or two to make sure. Sometimes there's a delay in the chat. But hearing no comments, I will declare the public portion of this meeting closed, and now we will move to the resolution itself. Now, basically, if we did nothing and didn't adopt a resolution, everything would revert to what it was prior to COVID, which is the only option was to attend in person. And if you weren't here in person, you couldn't vote, you couldn't comment, you couldn't really participate in the work of the board. So by adopting this resolution and the changes therein, and by the way, the resolution and the procedures all came from SUNY Central and the Committee on Open Government. So this isn't, you know, me having trouble sleeping at night and I just got up and wrote something down. I wanted to make sure that we get it right. So the person that I spoke to was the Assistant Deputy General Counsel at SUNY Central. And this is sort of in her portfolio, and she was very gracious and very willing to help us. So cutting through all the legalese, sorry, Molly, What this basically says is if there are extraordinary circumstances, like for example, Alex being in Germany is deployed, theoretically, he would be able to attend via Zoom, Skype, whatever everybody's using, and he could participate because we'd be able to see him, hear him, his name would be in the video, and that at the conclusion of the meeting, these meetings are all recorded always, will be posted on the Potsdam website within 5 business days. And we know that that's working because the candidate that we just had here for president indicated that he had watched all of the college council meetings. And I asked him if that was true, and he said yes, and then I asked him why, and he said he wanted to kind of see what he was getting into. So we thought that that's good. So we are open and transparent. And the other thing that this resolution allows us to do is if there is an extraordinary circumstance and the member wants to, let's say, for example, Jeff, something happened and he couldn't attend in person, but he would be willing to attend via video conference from the Channel 7 studio. So assuming we know in advance, the notice would go out and say not only that it's the 8th floor of Raymond Hall, but that you could also go to the green room at Channel 7, for example, and you would be able to view the video conference from there where the member is present. And if that's the case and it's publicly noticed, then Jeff would be able to fully participate, including being counted for a quorum, which is very important, and I really appreciate you all making the effort to be here today, because if we didn't have a quorum, we couldn't do this, and then we'd just keep being out of compliance. So it gives more options for the members to really participate rather than just watching and not being able to second motions or comment or ask questions. So that's the purpose of this. And we also have a set of procedures. Did we have a copy of that in here, Katie?
No.
Oh, it was part of the packet that was sent. If anybody needs an extra copy, just let Katie know. And because part of this resolution covers that we have to have written procedures. So we have those written procedures, you've got them in your packets. And if you need another copy, that's fine. So we need to act on the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt?
I have a question. Do we want to
Yeah, but we
make
gotta
the
move it
motion
and
first?
second,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll motion. to
Okay.
adopt.
Second by Jeff. All right, now it's open for discussion.
The open meeting laws beforehand, from what I remember, was they did allow for somebody to participate by Zoom if they were in a public place and that the public could actually go to where that person was.
Right, which is what,
But they don't have that. They don't talk about that in the bullet points that we got in the original packet. They talk about just having, so, I mean, that wouldn't necessarily have been under extraordinary circumstances. It's like if somebody was down in Florida on vacation and they went into an open area and had their computer, and as long as it was announced, and I'm not sure if we have experts here that could talk about that, but I remember that rule being in effect. I didn't know if that had changed.
I'm trying to remember because the open meetings law has been changed and tweaked over time.
Yeah, I mean, we would have, I remember certain meetings, certain public bodies where the person was down in Florida for the winter snowbirding. And they were out in a public area, it was announced ahead of time, and they were able to participate. And, I mean, I don't think that would be called extraordinary circumstances. I mean, that was just a rule.
Right.
You either had to be there or you had to be video conference in a public place. But,
I don't remember that part of it.
yeah.
So,
I have a question relative to the quorum. I mean, just, in order for somebody to participate and be part of the quorum, are you saying it has to be announced ahead of time?
Unless it's a true extraordinary circumstance, you know, somebody,
Like if you're in the hospital.
well, somebody fell in the bathtub that morning, they were planning on coming to the meeting, and now they're in the hospital, or had to go to the ER.
Okay. Well, let's just say Jeff has things to do with Watertown and he can't make it here in person. You're saying that it has to be announced ahead of time for him to video conference and be a part of the quorum?
Yes.
If it's not announced, he can watch, he can participate, but he can't vote.
I believe that this allows him to participate, but not necessarily be counted for a quorum. If it's an emergency thing that there was no way of knowing ahead of time. I mean, that also applies to a snowstorm or an ice storm where people can't physically get to the location.
So who announces ahead of time that there's going to be an option?
College communications, the way we announce our regular meetings. It would also have to say that, you know, in addition to Raymond Hall, there will be a council member participating remotely from whatever the address is, or, you know, like if you wanted to go to the library in Messina, they've got the capability there, and then they would just put it in there. So we just need to make sure that when the announcements go out, if people know that they have a conflict that can't be overcome, the public has to know that that's one of their options.
So meaning that the public would end up having the ability to join me at Channel 7 in terms of watching that?
Yep,
Okay.
If it's
Right.
open to the public.
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Open to the public. You know, the board that I sit on, the State Unemployment Insurance Appeal Board, we have the same thing. So, because there's 5 of us statewide, and we're all over the place. So our last meeting, I was at our Department of Labor office in Ogdensburg. And it was noticed that that's one place people could go to view and, well, it's not participate, it's just because there's no public comment period, but it's just that it's an option. It's also, you know, we're live streaming, so you can watch it on your home if you want, at your desk in your pajamas. So there's ample opportunity. We have to make sure that when someone is participating virtually, we do this anyway, but that their name appears on the screen so people know who they are and who they're talking to. Does that answer everybody's question? Alex?
Just a note, based on the chapter 56, the updated open meetings law, so we wouldn't have to advertise the alternate location if we were not concerned about the quorum. So if you knew, because the quorum, it's relative to the
Right,
quorum. You know,
right.
If you want to play it safe and say, you know, Jeff will be in Watertown because the snow is terrible, but he'll plan on being in the meeting room in the public library, which is available for in-person public attendance should someone wish to attend.
Right.
Because you're worried about him being part of the quorum, you could do that. If you're not worried about the in-person attendance for the quorum, then you can simply, he's still allowed to take part remotely and even vote remotely in that example if we were at home, for instance, as long as there's an extraordinary circumstance.
Right.
So, we could include that, you tell us who he is to put in the
Okay.
public notice, but I don't think we have to advertise it every time, but we may want to, if you're worried about the forum, because they are specific to need to have people in an area that can be accessed by the public person, or majority of members, somewhere.
Okay, any other questions? All right, the motion's been made and seconded that the College Council adopt the resolution. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. And hopefully there aren't going to be any extraordinary circumstances.
Hopefully you don't laugh, though.
So, and it's good to see everybody in person as well. Okay, so, thank you for that. Now we're going to go to report, Phil?
Because Alan couldn't be here, I suggested to the deans that they could each report on an item from their area,
Absolutely.
and that they'd like to share verbally with everybody, even though it's all in Alan's report.
Okay.
So perhaps I should have brought that up before, but now could be the moment, is now the time.
So we do that in lieu of Alan's report that's
Okay.
in your thing,
That could-
right?
comes around, okay.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. And it's always good to see the deans. So Melissa, do you want to lead off? And if you're speaking, if you want to come up and sit, so we can see and hear you.
Good morning. So I wanted to highlight one very exciting thing in my report, and that is the Carson Hall renovation. So that's actually starting next week. It's a 2-year project, so it goes till fall of 2024. And it adds 2 elevators to the building, so it makes 3 of our buildings accessible, which is really, really great. And also, it gives a home to our interdisciplinary studies department. Any questions?
So Carson is going to be closed off, right,
Yes.
during the project?
Yes.
Students are very excited about the elevator.
Yes.
If you, I don't know, at least right now, if you like break your foot and you need an elevator, then you would be like flag, or like, which is like really like, as a student, like, that's scary, like, oh, I break my foot, that's totally not my fault, but like, they're gonna move my class. So students are very excited and have been very vocal in assembly that this is like necessary.
Yeah, and all the years that I've been here and on the council, I never knew that there was an elevator in Thatcher until this week. Because I had to use it.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Melissa. So lots of exciting things are happening. So now we will have interim provost Alan Hirschker's report in your packets. And we will hear from the deans of the 3 schools directly about whatever you'd like to tell us.
And I have the report, who is gonna look at it, in case you wanna talk, but I don't know if you have it.
Who would like to go first? Sharon? Okay, great.
Good morning. Thank you for your report. I've been sitting next to the donuts. It's very tempting. I would love to use the Zen Center right now. So I would like to report that and I'm happy to report that the STEM programs hosted its first Careers in STEM event on October 19th. It was sponsored by Arconic. We welcomed 167 high school students from local communities. It was very well attended. The students attended sessions ranging from chemistry, magic show, which was a big hit, a loud hit as well. We also featured origami and geometry sessions, as well as planetarium shows and much, much more. Kudos goes to Dr. Paige Quinton in Earth and Environmental Sciences, who organized the event and who was also featured on the local news covering the event. I also want to note a big thanks to Arconic, who sponsored the pizza that was also treated to the students. I'd also like to put in a plug for one of our outreach efforts, which is a professional development workshop for social studies educators in the region on November 10th next week. So we are really looking forward to hosting our social studies teachers in the region here next week. Thank you.
Any questions, comments? Great, thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Will Givens from the Crane School. As you can see from the report, we're back to hosting any number of world-class artists on campus regularly. I feel like at least once a week we've got some fantastic performers working with our students and providing entertainment for the whole North Country community. I did want to go slightly off book and call attention to the fact that Crane and SUNY Potsdam hosted a number of luminaries from the opera world earlier this semester for the final round of the Dominic J. Pellicciati Opera Competition, which, if you don't know, is a donor-funded prize. It's one of the biggest awards in contemporary opera. So this cycle's winner was Timothy Tkach and Caitlin Vincent's opera Computing Venus, which is a new work about the life of astronomer Maria Mitchell, who was one of the earliest champions of women in STEM. And it will address her efforts to cultivate the next generation of women astronomers. So the way this works is next year we'll be working with the composers and librettists on campus, having our students come in, workshop, do this sort of thing, and then the following year we get to do the world premiere of this work. So it's a tremendous opportunity for us, and we're very excited about that continuing opportunity. So thank you.
Questions, comments?
Great.
Dr.
Thank you.
Gibbons and the Crane School provided a string quartet for our dinner with our first candidate the other night. And as usual, they were superb.
I do want to make sure it's in the minutes that that June did a rousing karaoke rendition down at the other end of the table. Tremendous performance.
That should be live
Maybe,
streamed.
maybe we could have that again.
Motion to strike, that was, yeah, motion to strike those comments.
I heard it was fabulous, June. Hi, I'm Alan Graham, the Dean of the School of Education and Professional Studies. I'm pleased to be here this morning. We are growing. A lot of things are happening. I do want to draw attention to what Phil had brought forward earlier regarding our relationship with the Kiev National Economics University in our business programs. We're actually trying to bring students from the Ukraine to Potsdam in January. We're working on that. Probably will be closer to the fall semester to get some kids here out of the Ukraine to study here at Potsdam, which is really cool. Another thing, too, I want to draw attention to is we continue to press forward new online programs in the MST, especially in secondary education. We just got approved special education and such. Most of the kids who are enrolling in our MST programs and our graduate programs are Potsdam Bears who move downstate, they become teachers, they do whatever they need to do. Traditionally, they would go to other colleges in the areas where they're living. Now we're able to retain them as Potsdam Bears throughout their graduate programs, which is great. Also, our New York City partnership with the New York City Department of Education Coalition for Teacher Preparation is rolling along. We had an event in Manhattan back in October where we are engaging with lots of community leaders, with school principals, regional superintendents, with the goal of bringing many students from New York City to be teachers and then back to New York City for their student teaching, and we're already getting a lot of traction there. We actually have a person in New York City now who is one of our professors. So that's exciting. And then the very last thing, which is a little off script, is that we continue to press forward with Watertown programs. We're looking at things like secondary education, articulation agreements with JCC, as well as those in community health. So many things are happening as we continue to grow SOPUS. Thanks. Any questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the New York City program, is there any incentive for them to go back to New York? What's to stop them from coming up here and then going to Potsdam?
Right. It's an excellent question. So what they do is there's two tracks for this. So New York, the coalition is trying to get more students in New York City to teach in New York City and to be prepared for the rigors of teaching in New York City. So our recruiting efforts are twofold. So at the undergraduate level, to bring kids up here for the first couple of years, then to go back to New York City to do student teaching, observations, and such. There are some financial incentives for them to be in New York City. Right now, there are some stipends for them, which probably may end. Furthermore, then, they have immediate needs for other programs, especially special education at the master's level. We're also looking at a TESOL program, which is teaching English as a second language. So those initiatives are designed to get our kids ready for the rigors of teaching in New York City schools. We do get a number of kids out of New York City who come to Potsdam. They student teach in the local area. They're almost always hired immediately, but they do tend to stay for 1 or 2 years, and then they gravitate back home, like most of our kids across the state do. Teachers tend to move back home. They want to teach in their own high school or their own middle school or whatever it may be. So this is just an opportunity for us to increase our enrollment in our education programs, keep our students in the profession for more than 2 to 5 years, which is important for the profession, and so that's where we are. We're already, I think we could possibly double our education enrollment if we do things right in New York City. Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you for that.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Alan. Next, David Davin. Now, this is, I think, for many of you, the first time you've met David. He is our new advancement person. And so welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And we always like to hear from advancement.
Yes, well, good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, so I'm the new Vice President for Advancement. Happy to be here. And I've got 2 things that I'd like to highlight. Of course, the whole report, I'll encourage you to read it. There's a lot of good details in there, but 2 things I'd like to highlight. One is that as we get underway with our campaign to bring increased resources to campus, we're going to be pursuing a strategy where we are asking explicitly for more flexible funds from donors, friends, and alumni. And that will probably include many people in here who I know many people are donors at different levels. So we'll encourage you to think about making your funds the most flexible they can be so that the institution can continue the great service it does to the students, and the students can continue to do the great work they do. The second thing I'd like to highlight is an event coming up on Sunday at 1:30 p.m. here on campus in the Performing Arts Center. We will be rolling out the first screening of the documentary Bodacious Bears, which highlights the championship era of SUNY Potsdam's basketball team back in the 70s and 80s. And so I hear it's a great documentary. We have over 100 people attending this event and counting, so if you'd like to attend, we'd love to have you there.
Questions? So how do you like it at Potsdam?
Oh, I love it. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm appreciative of the opportunity to serve you all.
And
Thank you.
soon to be a resident of Brazier Falls, I might add.
Currently a resident of Knowles Hall. So
There you go.
enjoying
It's
that.
all right. It's okay.
Thank you.
Eric, tell us all about student affairs.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm pleased to report that I think for the first time in quite a number of semesters, campus feels like it's back. It really feels like it's back. Potsdam, the community, the students, the vibrant place that we love, it feels like we're back. We're just in a very different place. We have tons of things going on. It just feels like it's back to what we all knew and loved and had experienced prior to the last couple of semesters. We've seen terrific attendance continued at student events. In our Get Involved software system, we've had over 1,000 events and meetings and initiative input. Over half of those have tracked attendance, over 22,000 attendance swipe-ins at these particular activities has really just been tremendous. Athletics had a good fall semester. All of the teams saw improvements in their records, and we had a couple of cross-country athletes qualify for the SUNYAC championships. We had a very active fall voter registration on campus. Almost 100 students completed voter registration forms or absentee ballots. We partnered with the League of Women Voters, a couple of clubs and organizations to make sure we were active. We also had a partnership with St. Lawrence County Public Health to host a couple of community vaccination clinics to include COVID, monkeypox, and the flu. And so that was well attended, not only from campus and students, but also the local community. And as David mentioned, we're certainly excited for the screening of the athletic documentary, and I understand Coach Welsh is going to be back in town for that, so that's really special having him back and the gymnasium being named for him. So the rest of my report is in your folder, and I'm happy to take any questions.
So from student affairs perspective, the semester's going well?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
want to.
always,
We still
yeah.
have a number of weeks left, but yes, we seem to be dealing with the regular things that we're normally dealing with. And as I said, just walking across campus between classes, after hours, people playing basketball in the gym, attendance at the fitness center. You know, obviously Kylie can talk about some of the student government specific things they're sponsoring, monthly activities. It just, as many of you know, I've been here quite a number of years, and it just feels like the regular old Potsdam that we all love is here, and it's back, and it's really exciting.
Any questions for Eric? Go ahead.
Eric, I hate to even bring this up, but, you know, in the, you know, we talk about the dynamic Potsdam is back, but is there still concern, or is there still programs for that COVID thing?
You know, I vowed for the first time in several meetings I was not going to say that word, so I'm still not going to say it. Thank you for asking. Yes, we still have protocols and process in place for students who live on campus and or off campus and test positive. We do still have quarantine and isolation spaces in the residence halls. As you know, a lot of those guidelines have changed to reflect a different environment now that we have with lots of people being vaccinated. So oftentimes if a student tests positive, it might go back 4 days to when they first have symptoms. So now they really only have to isolate for another 24 hours before they're then out and just have to wear a mask. And so yes, we still, student health is still testing students, although not to a great extent. And we still have a process in place for, to deal with those cases when they come up. And I still didn't say the C word, so.
Right.
Well, Steve didn't either, he spelled it.
He did spell it, that's right. But thank you for asking that.
It's like with your kids when you don't want them to know what you're saying.
Oh, yeah, but they learn to spell it at an early age.
Yes, they do.
And sometimes your dogs and cats will learn how to spell too. Yeah, I have a cat that knows what a T-R-E-A-T is. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Enrollment management, you're up.
Well, thank you for allowing me to speak. Obviously, my report is in the packet. I really only wanted to highlight an update on enrollment application numbers, both for the spring and the fall. What I would say, I would caution, particularly with the fall numbers, we'll have to keep in mind, many of you know, SUNY instituted the free application week. They're calling it free application week, but it's actually 2 weeks, so that helps. Students have the ability to apply either using the Common App or the SUNY application up to 5 SUNY institutions for free, so that saves them $50 a pop. We have marketed that pretty aggressively, not only on our on-campus events when we have visitors, but through marketing, social media, campaigns, et cetera. Towards that end, the fall numbers are up 180% over last year, and even up over 2 years ago as well, similar percentage. What does that translate into? We have just about 1,000 applications compared to about 400 last year, so it's a pretty significant jump. Again, I would caution because they are free apps, so sometimes you offer that incentive. People wonder, are they really soft applications? I think the key for us is going to be converting them to accepted and then continue our communication plan to engage them, to have them visit campus, et cetera. So fall numbers are up. Spring numbers are up as well. I don't know too many of them that took advantage of the free app week, even though we promoted it, but those numbers are up somewhere around 110% for the spring. And we know those numbers help bring additional revenue in the current cycle, so that's a positive. So that's my report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions, comments? Just tell people to keep those cards and letters coming.
Yep, thank you.
Remember, enrollment is everybody's job. Jacqueline Richardson Malicio is not here today, but her report is included in your packets. So we will move along to the brightest person in the room by virtue of his shirt.
It is Friday.
Yes, I know it is, and Blair didn't want to disappoint me by wearing a regular shirt today.
Good morning, everybody. I do have a written report that you've received. I don't think that there's a lot in there to speak about in great length. I think I will, as I often do, go off script and talk about something related to this. I did mention morale in my report, and I had some very interesting experiences 2 weeks ago at the University Faculty Senate meeting. As you probably know, the University Faculty Senate has representatives from all the SUNY campuses that come together and has meetings 3 times a year. Gives us a great opportunity to interact with the Chancellor, to interact with all of the key administrators at SUNY, also with UUP head Fred Kowal and other folks, and we discussed the issues at large in SUNY. It was both heartening and devastating to see that we are not alone when it comes to the financial problems in SUNY. In fact, our financial, although our debt may be worse than most, our financial deficit is nowhere near as bad as many institutions. Devastating because it points to a challenging future for all of SUNY. And so I would like to encourage all of you, if you have a role, if you have a way to help advocate in the coming budget season for support for SUNY. Fred Kowal is leading the charge in asking for a generational recommitment to public education in New York State. I don't know whether it's going to happen or not, but if SUNY is to continue in the form it's in now, it's necessary. And if that commitment doesn't come from the state as a whole, I don't see how SUNY continues in the form it's in now. That's just a frank reality. And I know all of you have connections across the state, so I thought I would share that with you. Related to that and morale, for me personally, seeing all of you folks on a regular basis and knowing how much you're committed to our institution is part of what keeps my morale high in where we are. It is incredibly important to know that we have friends in this room. We have friends in other places that really support us in many ways that they can. And I want to thank you for your continued service for doing that. I know that there's no paycheck for this job. It requires a significant amount of time and effort, especially when you have to travel here, and it's important. So we recognize that. Related to morale, at that University Faculty Senate meeting, one of the issues that came up over and over again was that on very, very many campuses, faculty are having difficulty with shared governance. They find that their presidents and their provosts and their other leaders don't really engage faculty in decision-making processes, cancel meetings with them, announce things without consulting them, to the point that we asked the Chancellor directly to address this issue. And the Chancellor is a big supporter of shared governance, but as she put it, she can advocate it, she can't legislate it, which I thought was a very clear way of putting it. I'd just like to say that I was happy when talking with folks from other campuses to describe how we work on our campus, the relationship that I'm able to have with Phil on issues, the relationship I'm able to have with the provost, and in fact relationships going back years. When I described this to the folks from SUNY Albany, they said we were living in a land of fairies and rainbows. That's how bad things are for them compared to we are here. Unfortunately, the fact that we have good relationships doesn't solve our financial problems. But I just wanted you all to know that there is something that we do really right on this campus, something that's really worth preserving, the way that we interact with each other and the way that we work with each other. And like you, I'm going to fight to see that it continues. Any questions?
I think I have one question, but it kind of goes back to the President's report, but Blair, you're hitting on it. When we talk about the New York State budget and it had the $60 million allocated for support for SUNY, we're eligible for $600,000. That's 1% of that money. Is there a reason for that? Is there a place where that money is going? That seems, if that's what it is, it seems insulting.
We were actually allocated, we were deemed eligible for $735,000 because it was 61,000 plus, excuse me, it was 610,000 plus 125,000 for support for underrepresented and minority students, that is DEI. And I'm pleased to report that, and this is in Dr. Richardson Belecho's report, that all of our proposals for that funding were approved. So we will be receiving that one-time money for enrollment enhancement. Yes, I wish it was more. The size of SUNY is enormous, and I did some of the math, and it sounds like we were treated relatively equitably, but I wish we had been eligible for more. That's an issue. I don't know all that went into that. Yeah. But it's really great that we got approved for what we proposed. So for example, alternative spring break. So students who don't have a place to go for spring break will be able to visit the Adirondacks, tap maple trees and the like. That will be supported by this money. And so we have been leading on the foundation to support that. Now we can use some of those funds. We can leverage them for something else, and so on. A bunch of multicultural weekend, an important recruitment event for us will be funded by this money, and a whole bunch of other initiatives, I don't remember all of them, of activities we'll engage in this year to help us grow enrollment. So I'm just looking at it as a positive and not thinking about whether we got more or less than somebody else. So,
Yeah. And I realize it's not
It's not in my
not your
control.
fault either,
Yeah.
that
But
the
you make a
numbers
good- you make a good point.
came
Yeah.
out that way.
Yeah.
Just interesting. There wasn't one college that one of the part of the student, you said it's equitable, yet there wasn't one that really had a bigger amount.
I don't know the amounts received by the other colleges.
They don't
but
publish that, huh?
they-
They don't notify, I mean, do they publish how much where that money's gonna go and which college is gonna get which?
I probably could have dug in and found that out. I don't know that they publicize it, but it's not hidden. You know, you do what you can to advocate for your college, and then when you get some funding, you're thankful for it, and you take the most advantage of it that you can. And you trumpet what a great job you did, so you get more the next time around, right? And you know, that's a message for the legislature as well, to give us more the next time around, you know, to keep supporting public higher ed. So for example, an increase in direct support for the campuses would be a fantastic thing. We lean so heavily on, all the SUNYs lean, especially the non-research colleges, lean on just enrollment and tuition and fees, you know, to pay for operations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
So, Blair.
Yes, sir.
You're doing things right.
We're trying, yes.
Right. And is there any interaction between Faculty Senate and Albany Central as far as how to grow student? I mean, is there like a committee or any sort of?
That's a really good question. So, first of all, our Faculty Senate does not typically take direct action in Albany, either in the Chancellor's office or otherwise. We're not really prohibited from doing so. It's very clear in our bylaws that we are able to make recommendations to the President. We are able to make recommendations to this body, the College Council. We're able to make recommendations to the Chancellor. I think in some cases, you know, our presidents would feel if we went past them and went directly to the Chancellor that we'd skipped a step. That's not against our rules. It's just not an action that we typically take. At the University Faculty Senate level, which is where representatives from all the communities get together, there is very active work in lobbying Albany, both for funding, but also for other kinds of things. So an example when it comes to tuition is that SUNY has recently implemented, Phil might know this better than me, a way for certain students from out of state to be able to attend SUNY schools, or some SUNY schools, at in-state tuition rates, depending upon what the tuition rates were in their home institution. I've since learned that this is a bit of a smokescreen. It sounds better than it really is, because the numbers they use to compare is not the, how did somebody describe it to me? If you were thinking about Connecticut, there's multiple levels of state-funded schools in Connecticut. We're comparing to the most expensive level, not the typical level that people would pay. But it still is an opportunity for more students to come here. For years and years, we've lobbied for institutions like ours, Plattsburgh, SUNY Fredonia, that are at the border areas of the state, to be able to take advantage of significant populations in other states or even in Canada at in-state tuition rates. And so far that has not been supported in the legislature. I'm sure there's some political reasons that it might be difficult to sell, but there's a lot of logical reasons that it's an obvious that we should be doing. I don't know if that answers your question or not. Or?
Yeah, I guess my point is that faculty is down in the trenches, and if there's anybody that should have an idea how to improve growth, and oftentimes the people in the trenches are overlooked. I don't want to stir a hornet's nest or
No. Okay, I get your point there too. That's a really interesting issue. That, for instance, in the Crane School of Music, part of the direct job description of every music professor is to participate in recruitment. And our Crane professors are masters at this. Okay, they're really good at this. This is how they get a lot of their students. They're in contact with them before they ever set foot on this campus, often before they ever apply to come to this campus. In other parts of our campus, like in arts and sciences, this is completely not the norm. And instead we rely on our admissions folks who do a great job of trying to get out there. We do have, if you saw in the report, there are other things that folks in our areas are able to do to more directly influence students. So you saw like the great event that was planned by Paige Clinton, inviting teachers and students on campus for STEM-related activities. And I think we need to do more of that, because I think that sometimes as faculty we're able to be much more effective at conveying the value proposition of coming to a SUNY school than, no disrespect, Pat, than an admissions counselor is. If I go to visit a high school, which I do on multiple occasions every year, and it's hard to make time to do that, I get to go typically and talk to 6, 7 different classes filled with students for the entire period. If you're an admissions counselor and you go to a school, they typically put you in the guidance office, make an announcement so any students who want to can come down and talk to you. There's a difference in access. There's also a difference in sales pitch. If I talk to a classroom, I only talk generally about SUNY Potsdam for 3 to 4 minutes, and I spend the next 35 minutes talking about mathematics, because first and foremost we have to encourage them to study math. I don't know if that, I get your point. We are not ignored. Faculty talk about this, but it is a real challenge, and has been on this campus for years, to understand how that fits into our job descriptions and duties for everybody outside of Crane. Crane's got it nailed. They have a plan, they have it nailed, it's the way it is. For the rest of us, I don't think we've ever had it clear. I don't know, maybe Alan would say something different about School of Ed. Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to add one point that I know everyone should add, this idea of charging in-state tuition for more states or any number of folks outside of New York State is not something that the legislature supports, but realize Florida, the state of Florida came out with a legislative act that said if your grandparent is a resident of Florida, your grandchild can go to Florida State, University of Florida, for in-state tuition. University of Maine has been doing it for years. They had a huge uptick in enrollment. I think our state legislature is short-sighted. They need to be pushed. We need to do something drastic, because when you look at projections or the goals of SUNY achieving 500,000 students by 2030. I've been in enrollment for over 35 years, and I don't like to be pessimistic, but it will not happen in my lifetime based on what we're doing. That's just my opinion.
So-
Any influence you can have over state legislators, you know, or conversations. It may take a couple more years, but it needs to happen. We have an opportunity today to come and do it in a local state senate, and that's something that I'll bring it up more gingerly, but it would definitely be a topic.
Will they still be a state senator next Wednesday?
Excuse me?
Will they still be a state senator
I
next
don't know.
Wednesday?
I'm not sure about that. Dan Steck, we're meeting with Senator Steck today at 12:30, Pat and I are doing that.
Now, he does have opposition.
Yeah, I'll ask him about that.
He knows.
He doesn't like
Maybe
to
he can
admit
win
it.
my vote. I think he represents half of Potsdam.
Yeah.
Right? Because of the way
That's
the
right.
district we work, not all of Potsdam.
And Messina.
Yeah. We're divided up pretty good. So we have 4 assembly people and 3 senators.
Like that little part up in the
Oh, yeah.
northern.
Yeah, it's like some people, some places didn't like the results the way they were happening, so they cut us up.
Yeah.
It certainly did.
Yeah.
This question of out-of-state tuition and other ways we might enhance enrollment, next to your question, Jeff, about the $66 million for enrollment enhancement, and also to what you brought up, Blair. There is this, SUNY system is engaging some new enrollment strategies, or designs of new enrollment support strategies for system and for all the SUNY units, which is positive. So they're working on some possible policies for graduates from associate degree offering colleges to automatically be admitted to 4-year colleges and be notified, and if a student gets declined when they apply to some college, they could be automatically admitted to another SUNY unit and be given that option on the unit that SUNY college that fits them, and other things. And I think that might be where some of this $60 million went, is to those efforts, but I'm not sure about that part. You know, we got 1%, I was doing the math I was talking about, I was thinking about it after I spoke before. We got 1% or so of that money, as opposed to it would have been 1 3/4%. Right? It had been, there are 64 SUNY units.
Sure.
So it's not a huge difference, but still, that's almost double, if you look at it that way. But yeah, they are doing some innovative things, so we'll see. That's positive. But they need to do more, and I think that maybe the legislature needs to wake up and realize that New York State, especially the non-New York City region, needs more population. And that might be something that happens if we make it easier for students to come to college in those rural areas. For example, the SUNY Potsdam, and some of them would stay here. That's the evidence.
I have a silly question.
Okay.
Esther, what is the maximum population that this campus can handle? How many students can this campus handle?
I think the vision was 5,000 students when the campus was built. The largest number, the highest number of students I think we've had is, in our history, is about 4,100. Parking lots were full, it was a stretch, but I think we could go higher than that. As far as capacity goes, we have a lot of buildings with a beautiful facility.
Okay.
Thank you.
Blair.
Thank you, Blair.
And Blair's been extremely active in the search as well. Kylie,
I'm last, but
not least.
I get antsy. I don't know if anyone's noticed that. I'm
Well,
sorry.
we'll move you up next time.
You're fine. So if you notice in my report, I don't know if anyone's, please read my report. It's really important. You're here for the students. Woo. I start off by mentioning all of my other fellow executive board members A lot of times I am the one to come to these meetings, but I always like to mention that we work as a team of 5 and we all have equal voting rights and we meet once a week as an e-board. So it's really important that I am just one person in a big organization. But I always like to mention that because a lot of times I'm just the face. I'm just here to see all of you. So SGA is working on monthly programming, which is really exciting. It's something we've never done before, at least since I've been on this campus. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Kylie Wilkins. I am a junior secondary education major in biology, minor in chemistry. I'm in the BA MST program, so here for 3 more years, including this year. Super exciting. But yeah, so we're working on monthly programming where we give our clubs, because we represent about 40-ish clubs, a chance to market themselves, be there, and have low effort, if that makes sense. So an event we just did was our Monster Mash, which is a Halloween-themed event. We did it the weekend before Halloween because college students like party the weekend of Halloween. So we did it the weekend before, so we got a lot of people to come. We had about 12 clubs come and they tabled downstairs. We used the Knowles NPR. So there's like a downstairs and an upstairs. So downstairs we had the clubs tabling. We provided them candy and we had like apple cider donuts and like apple cider. And it was super exciting and the clubs really liked that they could just kind of show up and like give out candy and like they had their like they all had signs and it was super exciting. And we did that for the first hour, and in the second hour we had the clubs break everything down and then go enjoy. Because I find a lot of times when I talk to student leaders, they're very fatigued. I mean, I know I'm a student leader and I'm asked to be at like every student event. So there are times where I don't get to enjoy an event, and you know, like I don't need that personally, but I know people who do. And you know, it's really important to keep our student leaders like rejuvenated and to feel like important and to have that relaxing time, because a lot of times we look to them to run events for students or we look to them to program. So I really liked that personally, and I was really glad that we were able as SGA to provide that for students. Like I said, monthly programming we're working on. So September we did a band shell grand opening. That's a great space for campus. We built that with student money. Our student assembly approved that. Go check it out. It's by Knowles. Really pretty, really awesome. Can't wait to use it more in the spring. October we did the Monster Mash. This coming month, November, we're doing a karaoke, a 2000s night, like karaoke. December we're going to do a passive programming where we give out like study bags for finals week and like self-care kits. It's going to be a make your own care kits. In the spring we're helping out plan a bunch of events for Winterfest, which is super exciting to see. Winterfest is like kind of like the Welcome Weekend Carnival, but in the wintertime. I was a freshman in 2020, fall 2020, so these events every year, I'm just like so excited because I didn't get them as a freshman, and I'm also a freshman RA, so I get really excited to see my residents really enjoying it because it makes me want to stay here. I can tell you that, because my freshman year with none of the programming, it was really hard to want to stay here, but faculty really help you want to stay here. So, I just encourage all of you who are in the room that if you think something's a student issue, to ask SGA if it's a student issue, because a lot of times I sit in meetings and people will be like, this is a student issue, but no one's asked the students if it's a student issue. We just kind of assume it's a student issue, which I do myself sometimes, because you know, you hear people and you think it in your head, like you're like, oh my god, this is a student issue, but really they don't care. Like it's something completely different, and it's something completely smaller, or something that you don't think about. Like we had issues with our washers, but we're working on that. Like that's something so little that you wouldn't think about as an outsider. So I encourage that. And then if you look to the bottom of my report, I talk about how we have a record high of attendance just at all of our events. We had 150 people come to our Monster Mash, which is a lot of people in one space, which is really awesome to see again. And we have new clubs coming, which is really exciting because that means students want to foster that space. So we just approved the Native American Student Association, Women in Business. The radio station club is being brought back. It left because of COVID. It's working on making its way back. Pod of Broadway, a couple more, Philosophy Forum, 18 Up Improv is now going to SGA. Acapella groups just got approved yesterday. They're now all under SGA. So we are gaining clubs by the day, and students are really excited to be on campus again. And we were lucky enough to have the SUNY Student Assembly, student assembly, vice president come visit our assembly last week, and he was very impressed with our assembly and how it runs. And our student involvement, he says, is crazy because we have 40 people who sit in Kelos 104, and they come every week, and they're very passionate about being there, and it's really exciting to see that come back. It's really exciting to not be on Zoom. But yeah, that's all I got. Sorry, that's a lot. I talk a lot. But yeah, I'm open to questions.
So the clubs, the increase in clubs, to Eric's point, it's like it's coming back.
Yeah, I know in a lot of clubs, we call it club death. I don't know if that's a great phrase, but we're like, oh, the club died. But a lot of clubs have like phased out because their members graduated during COVID. And when you're a new student here, there are things that you've heard about, but like they don't exist. Like the radio station's one. Like I am an SGA like official. It's in our hallway. I don't know if anyone's seen the way. It's a beautiful space. We have like a ton of CDs, ton of vinyl, but that's been sitting there for 3 years.
Who uses that nowadays?
So it's an empty room, and we just hired an executive assistant in the SGA office. So our full-time admin, her name's Cindy Amell, she is a lot less stressed because we were running as a one person. You know, I mean, the students, we do a lot. Like we have to hold office hours, and I mean, I'm in the office every day, but it's really nice to take away that pressure. But that room's just kind of been sitting collecting dust. And that was really popular on campus, and a lot of alumni have expressed that they missed that. But like for a student like me, like I have never experienced a radio station on campus, so it's a little hard to get involvement because it's hard to imagine what that's like. And that's a couple clubs that have like died, and people like sometimes faculty wants a club to come back, but no students want it to come back, so that's kind of sometimes an issue. But it's like you just need to tell us what it's like, because it's hard to imagine, which sounds like a little stupid, but it's a little hard to imagine something you've never had. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's super exciting, and the increase in clubs has been really beneficial, and clubs attendance has gone way up. Like I had clubs tell me that they had like 9 people come last semester, and now they have 30 people come to their weekly meetings, and I mean that's exciting. Like that's double, tripling your attendance rates, which makes students want to stay here. Because if you have a group and you have friends, really makes you want to stay here. Like I know SGA, I've met so many people, and it's so exciting. But yeah.
Well, I'm really happy that you've got a downhill ski club.
Yes, we have a ski club now. That came back. That died during COVID and came back.
So if anybody wants to join.
Yeah, super exciting.
Titus Mountain.
Yep.
Malone, New York.
They use Titus.
Steve wants to join.
Yeah, I think Steve wants to join.
Well, I work there, so.
I was going to say, there's some kind of tourism thing going on right now.
I don't need to join. I just want to see all the students happy and enjoying the winter weather.
We're very lucky here.
It's a good club.
Very lucky.
Yeah, definitely.
I hope the microphone picked that up.
Why, are you on the payroll over there?
Well, I think I get paid. I don't know.
Kylie, I have a comment. I'd like to thank you and SGA for creating another opportunity for June for you to participate in a karaoke event. Thank you very much.
I think we need an encore.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, Rich is ready to sing. Rich and Steve.
Rich has a great voice. Rich has a great voice.
Absolutely.
Well, you might not want to come to the karaoke event because I volunteered to sing, and I am not a Crane student. So.
That's okay. Anybody else have a question or anything for Kylie? I'm going to call
I
her
don't have a
Kate.
question for Kylie, but I'm going to make another plug. I spoke to Jerry Welch yesterday.
Oh, good.
I don't know if a lot of you know who Jerry was. But
Yep.
I'm sure most of you
He
do.
still is Jerry
But
Welch.
he was telling me, and I didn't realize this, that Potsdam, during his era, they had the second winningest program in NCAA history, all
Yeah.
levels. The only school that beat his record, and he only beat it by a few games, was UCLA. He had 64 undefeated games.
Yeah.
Only one that beat that.
Well, the year that Mario Cuomo came to salute the basketball team, we were the only undefeated basketball team in the nation. And it was like a big deal. And I'm hoping some of that footage made it into the Bodacious Bears. Okay, it's time for, is there any old business? No senior jokes, please. Any new business? Our next meeting is February 3rd. Please mark it. Jeff?
I just want to, don't know where it goes, I just want to make a comment in terms of, in the beginning, we talked about transparency and the open meeting law, and I think it's fantastic, especially from where I come from and what I do. So that's appreciated, but I just wanted to say that we've seen some community stories, and I want to thank Alex for the ability to put SUNY Potsdam out there. I know that we've done it, just happens to be Channel 7, but I want to thank her in terms of the cooperation and getting SUNY Potsdam out there in the community on different stories. The Kiev business was one story that Channel 7 did. The STEM program is another one that we did. The Night of the Living Dead production that was just recent as well. But I mean, oftentimes I'm telling our reporter Sean to give Alex a call, but she's working with him, and I just think that's important. It shows that the college is willing to be out in the community and showing, what they're doing. Other times it might be enrollment and budgeting, but there are the fun things that get reported as well, and I just think it's important for the college to do, and I'm glad to see it continue, and I just wanted to thank Alex in terms of the participation and helping us do that. So.
And we appreciate our part.
It helps.
Yes, Alex. And we appreciate the coverage.
It's not why I'm here, right?
No,
but I mean,
know.
But I just think it's important as excuse me, coffee went down the wrong way. But as a viewer, as a community member as well, as I sit back and I'll watch, our newscasts and just see that stuff out there. It's good to see Arconic and involved in our community. It's good to see the students doing the production and whatever it is. It's just good for that to be out there, and we have that relationship with many of our colleges. But I just have the opportunity to say thank you and just to bring it up, and I think it's something that shines about Potsdam and a lot of our colleges.
Thank you. February 3rd, next meeting. Please mark it on your calendars. And hopefully nobody has any extraordinary anything. Unless it involves winning the Nobel Prize or something like that, that'd be all right too. Then we could have our.
We could cancel and go there.
We could have our February meeting in Sweden. Yeah.
I agree.
Stockholm, that's all right too. Any other business to come before the board? If not, Richard will make his usual motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Seconded, okay, by Molly and Kylie. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning until February 3rd, say aye. Aye. And since we won't see each other before, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you. You too.
And I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving, Blair. 'Cause I know
I did.
you guys are earlier than the
First time
States.
in a long time, I went to Canada for Thanksgiving. It was
Wow.
good.
Okay, that's
Thank you,
it.
Gina.
Thank you, everybody.